Howdy. I'm Eric Francis, your friendly neighborhood astrologer, author of various Planet Waves columns and article series. And I'm here today with a feature in the Inner Light, Inner Peace readings. That is this Inner Light, Inner Peace. I think the 28th annual edition of Planet Waves. It's a very special thing astrologically that I think, as far as I know, Jonathan Caner was the only other person who ever did anything close to this, and it was only close to it. And Patrick Walker would also write year ahead columns. That was a long time ago. That was way back in the 20th century. So what I do every year is I write an extended reading for sun sign, rising sign, whatever sign you want, 12 sign reading, and then I do an audio or video recording. This year I did both audio and video as well as written. And I'm here to answer questions that have come in about this product. But first I want to give you a little sense of what it is. So normally when when you're going to an astrologer, you get a reading, and they're going to read your natal chart. Natal chart's going to look like this. Natal chart's going to look like this. Now, they're going to do a reading. It's going to cost several $100s, and it's going to be about exactly about your chart from an astrologer who is working with you and has you right there to work with. So in the alternate, Evangeline Adams in the around the 1920s, 1930s invented a different kind of reading. What she did was she took like every planet and every sign and every house. Was convenient. Pluto did not exist, and she probably wasn't doing Neptune. And then she would cast the birth chart for someone, and then send them a collection of, oh, you have Venus in Aries. Here's Venus in Aries. Oh, you have Venus in the third house. Here's Venus in the third house. And you get a little stack of papers. This is before the days of databases. It really is before even primitive computing. So now that we have computing, databases can be used, and so you can get a reading for say, for example, you or Johnny Cash or anybody you want, and basically that's what you get. You get a reading of your. This would normally come with your natal chart, and then it gives you a listing. Venus conjunct. How do I do this? Venus conjunct Uranus, Venus square Pluto. Uranus in the first house, right? And this is exactly what Isabel Hickey invented, only the difference is that it comes out of a computer and it's based on your specific birth date, time, and place, sort of. In other words, that your whatever chart that results in, you get all these selections out of a database. They were written at different times. They could have been written by different people. You don't really know. And this is what's sold still on Jonathan Caner's website, and what's sold on astro.com. There's a diversity of places that do it. And these are good as far as it goes if you want a little customized astrology textbook that only has your placements. Basically, that's what it is. I have I don't want to get up in the middle of this video, but for example, the textbook Astrology of Cosmic Science by Isabel Hickey gives you readings like this, but you know that it's Isabel Hickey. These are the readings from Time Cycles Research. They're not available anymore except through me. I'm licensed to sell these. I offer them as kind of a complement to certain subscriptions like the Astrology Pass. So it's a database reading. It's a setup. It's it's based on the placements in your chart, but no one interprets the whole chart. This, to me, is the key difference. And you think, well, but it's more accurate because it's based on my date, time, and place of birth, which is true in one sense. But at the same time, it is not a comprehensive reading looking at the entire chart, for example, as I do in the Inner Light, Inner Peace readings as one gestalt, right? So it's fragmentary. It's pieces, typical of the computing environment, to deliver something in pieces that you then have to reassemble and make cohesive. So the alternate is, and I won't say this is my invention, but I have, in a sense, perfected this form of astrology. I think that I've taken it as far as it goes. Is I use the same method that I use to write the Planet Waves weekly and monthly horoscope. I use the same method that Sally Brompton uses to write the daily horoscope in the New York Post, various other Murdoch publications. By far the best daily horoscope out there right now. Only Sally's writing 50 words a day. And what I'm able to do is to write like, this is, I think, 8,000 words. So you might ask, how is that even possible that I can do that? And why is it relevant to me? I'm just one Pisces or Pisces rising. Well, so it all depends on how you think of things. Astrology is, the way that it's presented is either somebody talking or somebody writing. And so the question is, which talking and writing do you resonate with? It's less about how astrology works, because all astrology works to the extent that it does, to the extent that the reader, the practitioner, is dedicated, devoted, sincere, does the work, and all of that stuff. So the difference in what I'm doing in my annual readings is that instead of having a unique individual birth chart, I have what's called a solar chart. And a solar chart, essentially, now it took me a while to figure out this, but the solar chart skips the natal planets, and it just puts the current transiting planets in their houses. So it is basically a reading of planets transiting through houses and making different aspects, and the way that they're connecting to one another. So you lose something in the sense of the exact date, place, and time of birth, but you gain something in one astrologer, that's me, looking at the chart as a whole and then writing a response to this chart as a whole, as an entire thing. It's much more cohesive. For example, in this reading, it's just purely fragmentary. It's just like Taurus on the second, very nice. What's the third house? What's this on the third house? Okay, you need to know this stuff if you're interested in astrology, and I offer these. Write to me if you're interested. I didn't write it, but it's pretty good writing. But it's not a reading. It's just a bunch of lookups in a database. You following me here? When I take this Pisces chart and I write this is a reading. I choose how I'm going to begin, then I develop the story, and the beautiful thing is that I'm not just writing, say, for example, to say, well, Saturn is in the second house in Aries. Okay, very nice. Tell about that. Neptune is in the second house in Aries. Okay, very nice. That's what this kind of thing would give you. And by the way, these were written like 25 years ago, and they're not updated, so they're purely natal interpretations. I'm looking at the current time, the current moment. And whereas a computer-based reading would say, Saturn in Aries means this, Neptune in Aries means this, but what does Saturn and Neptune in Aries at the same time mean? It's not going to tell you that. It's not going to tell you that. And it's certainly not going to tell you what Saturn and Neptune in Aries mean in the context of Pluto in Aquarius, and M87 in Libra, and Uranus in Gemini, right? So when I'm reading, I'm able to read this entire pattern. There is no computerized astrology of any kind, including any form of AI, the best AI in the world ever, the hypothetical, Valhalla, AI at the end of the universe. Nah, it can't do it. It can't do it. This is a totally human thing. It's a human look at a human chart, and I'm choosing my own elements. For example, I read a super galaxy called M87. What's going on in these other charts? What's going on in these other readings? You kind of expect them to be basically pretty basic, but basically basic. But if you want to know basic things about your chart, get this. But if you want to know what's happening now and what it means now, get this. And this video tonight is for all the people who got this and had some questions about this. So let's go to the questions. All right. So Dorothy writes, I love my purchase of all 12 signs. Sometimes I don't understand or fully seek understanding from my sun sign report, Pisces, because it mentions transits to the houses if Pisces were my ascendant. So I tend to focus on Cancer, which is my sun and rising sign. I have Aquarius. Okay, so do we understand that much? So one of the things I'm doing, one of the ways you deal with not having the birth time is that you take the sun sign and you use that as the first place. Use that as the ascendant. Now, sometimes people don't trust that. They don't believe that that is going to work because they understand that they have a rising sign. But here's the thing. I know my natal astrology well, and I know I'm a Pisces. My birthday's coming up next week. I know how my solar chart works, and I will tell you that they are basically parallel chart systems. They are parallel astrology systems, and the transits track for both. So astrology is not magic. Astrology is interpretation. Astrology is part of the storytelling tradition. It's based in archetypes and all that stuff. But to my ear, and I've been listening to this for a long time because I'm pretty good at reading natal charts, and then I've written 2,000 sun sign horoscopes. That's 2,000 times 12 signs. And I read my Sally Brompton horoscope every day in the New York Post. I have not missed a day. It's got me started on astrology. So what this reader is asking is, how do I interpret my moon sign? I will say this. Let's go back to the Pisces is my sun, but I have Cancer rising. And then you mentioned the houses as if I had Pisces rising. Well, the sun is very powerful. It is more powerful than the ascendant. The ascendant is kind of an extension of the sun because it tells you what angle the sun is shining on you or shining at people on the other side of the earth who is supposed to fall off because gravity shouldn't hold them on, and for some reason they don't fall off. The key to astrology is basically suspending disbelief and seeing what the astrologer says. And I promise you that the solar houses work and that the houses that are ascendant-based work. It is totally up to the skill of the astrologer. Now, what if you're reading your moon sign? Well, so this reader writes in and says, well, she actually has Aquarius 8th house with her moon, Venus, and Chiron. We don't need to look at this chart right now. So she doesn't just have the moon in Aquarius. She has the moon, Venus, and Chiron in the 8th. And I would say, read it like it's your reading. These readings are not, nor is private, personalized astrology reading, like one-on-one with your actual chart, the truth. It's an interpretation. All astrology is an interpretation. And so what I would suggest is hang loose and go with the flow and see what speaks to you, see what resonates with you, regardless of the technicalities, right? It's divination. When you read tarot cards, it doesn't care what your sun sign is or what your rising sign is. And I would add also that I forgot what I was going to add. Okay, so we have the idea here. What I'm suggesting is hang loose. You could say, don't take it so seriously, but what I really mean is hang loose and realize that we're talking about philosophy and not some form of technical science. If you saw my You Know More Astrology Than You Think chart class, I began with a barbecue instructions, barbecue assembly instructions. And I began with barbecue assembly instructions to make the point that a person is not a barbecue. Okay? So, let's see now. She's swamped until opening up the discussion. Okay, so I'll take more questions on this. But the reason that I use the solar house system is I don't know who you are. I don't have your birthday. But the thing is that if the astrologer is sincere, knows what they're doing, it works. And it's a trade-off. Until you're working with me one-on-one, you pretty much have a choice of either putting it together for yourself, getting a solar chart reading. That was dramatic. Getting a solar chart reading based on this chart that looks like this, or getting this kind of cobbled together thing, which would include your exact natal chart, and it would seem to be more accurate because it does. But the proof of the pudding is always in the tasting. And what got me, I know I'm going on for a long time on this. What got me into astrology, even though I knew astrologers, even though people had seen my chart, said things about my chart, what got me into astrology was the voice of Patrick Walker in the New York Post. Patrick didn't know my birthday. Patrick didn't know anything at all, didn't know I existed. But every day that Pisces horoscope was so beautiful, it was so amazing that I had to learn how to do it. I never sought out to be an astrologer. And so what I'm getting at is there is a certain, it's not actually magic, but think of it as a little magical in the sun sign horoscope, because how is it supposed to work? How's it supposed to work? Okay, I think I've gone as far as I can go on this. Dorothy, let me know if you have any more questions. Okay, this one we heard once or twice. I made a comment in somewhere in here. Nick writes, Gemini and the associated third house. Gemini is also associated with the 12th, but that's another story. If anyone is curious, I will do a presentation. Get my attention. Now, why do I say that that Gemini is associated with the 12th house? Everyone knows that the zodiac begins with Aries, right? But this is not true in every case. What is believed to be at least by great Robert Schmidt, believed to be the oldest document in Western astrology. This is called the Thema Mundi, and it is old. It may not be the oldest. You can always find an older one. But in any event, when people went digging, this is what came out of the library as being a very old document and an example of a chart. It's from about 400 BC, right around the time of the development of music theory, and all musicians will recognize this has a strange resemblance to the circle of fourths and the circle of fifths, which are the same thing. And the chart is called the Thema Mundi, the chart of the world. Now, there's never been a time when all of these things have been placed exactly like this. How do we know? Because now we have computers, and we can look for when those things are. You could do a search for this. I believe Rob Hand did it. You can't find it, but it's not a literal chart. It's a teaching chart. And in this teaching chart, this potentially, the first chart that any astrology student would get, Cancer is in the ascendant. Look at it. Cancer is in this first house. It's right in the east in the first house. Okay, and so it's like, well, why is that? I don't know, but it's there, and so. This chart was discovered within the last 30 or so years, and I'm surprised that it's not a real big topic of discussion. I bring it up. I use it as an astrology tool, but you would think this would be a hot topic, like the first chart ever, a teaching chart nonetheless, the first chart. So in any event, I think that this represents a system of house and sign correspondence. And in that system of house and sign correspondence, Cancer is house 1, and Leo is house 2, and Virgo is house 3. This actually starts to make sense. And when you think about the human realities that it represents. So I'm partial to having the world or humanity have the sign Cancer rising, because Cancer, while it can be as self-centered as Aries, at least takes some pleasure in making home and taking care of people. And Aries is much more self-centered, but to the exclusion of many other many other collective things, and that's appropriate for the 12th house, personal, 10th house, house 10, sorry, I'm a little tired, personal ambition, 10th house, career, where you have to aspire and you have to fight and you have to, the businessmen having their turf war battles and governments and stuff like that. That to me makes much more sense to have Aries on the 10th house. And so what this system starts to tell you, and I've been working with it for well over 20 years, is that, well, if Cancer is the first house, then Gemini is the 12th house. Gemini as the 12th house makes sense. There's just something very Gemini about the 12th house. And they could say, well, but in the other system with Aries as the first, it's Pisces, and Pisces and Gemini are very similar. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's true as well. But astrology is a combination of learning history, not thinking you actually know the whole history, and then you have to experiment on yourself and a lot of clients and a lot of world situations. I love reading mundane, meaning world events. I have not done the Iran war on this. I'm still thinking about the Iraq war. Still have not done that chart yet, but mundane astrology is very important because it teaches you about the world without having individual egos involved. You might notice that one of the things I avoid is the charts of newsmakers. I'm really not interested in the charts of newsmakers. I'm interested in the events that newsmakers precipitate. I want to keep their ego as far away from the discussion as possible. And that, by the way, is what you get when you have a kind of a reading based on this chart. It completely omits the natal chart. There is a value in completely omitting the natal chart because you don't have all those obstacles there. You just have this open field where all this stuff is going on. Now, the story develops. Okay, let's go back to this. So what I'm getting at here is it makes sense to think of Cancer rising, but you can try it out. But I got it right away. And you don't want to just kind of like ignore or throw away a 24-year-old recovered document. That's really impressive that we have access to this. And to me, it makes Virgo on the 3rd makes perfect sense. It's a Gemini, also Gemini ruled, whether it's Mercury ruled, whether Gemini or Virgo. Libra on the 4th, relational sign Libra on the house associated with home. Sure, put relationships there. Scorpio in the 5th, sure, that works fine. With Mars, you've got to be bold to be an artist, 5th house. And the 12th house is very dualistic in a certain way that works both for Pisces and for Gemini. And so this is all under the general rubric of hanging loose and not being too wound up in concepts, and also making sure that as you learn a concept, you learn where the concept came from, the history. It's a lot of work. Becoming an astrologer is far more work than getting a PhD. By that I mean a well-trained, competent, practiced astrologer. It's on the level of being an MD, only better, because you have your training, you have your internship, you have residency, and then is a series of stages that you go through, which you need to go through as an astrologer. And it can take a while. It partly depends on how you think. I happened to learn the astrological system in 1 year. I had 7 years of preparation, but once I started looking at astrology books, I had the system down in 1 year, and then I had to keep relearning it. But to be able to get up and ride the bike took me about 13, 14 months at the most. All right. So, Nick, that is why I consider Gemini a 12th house factor, because in the thema mundi, it's in the 12th house, and that's it. Why was it put there? Does it work? That's the question. Does it tell you something? That's the question. Right? All right. Let's go take the chart cam off. All right. Here's John writing, even after reading over a couple of years and several different documents and readings, I'm not sure what the configuration you're calling the Hunger Games is really all about. And then I think he also said that he was having a hard time finding it in the. I got all set up here to do this, and now I'm like a little bit lost. Let's see what we got here. If we got this here, we got this here, we got this here. I got all my stuff on the Family Hunger Games. There it is. Okay. Okay. So he's not sure what it's all about. So first of all, when I talk about the Family Hunger Games, I've written 2 articles about it, and I'm integrating it more, but I focused it as a topic in early 2024. And what I mean by the Hunger Games pattern is, first of all, it involves Pholus. It involves slow movers, but quick movers like Juno pass through the territory. So Pholus is in Capricorn for, 15, 20 years. Cupido is in probably for 50 years. Quatwar in for about 20 years. Ixion in for about 15 years. So it's this very slow-moving group that is basically moving together. And again, you'll see I include quick movers like Juno, 4-year orbit approximately, but they come to visit and they modify the pattern. So the core pattern, as it manifests in Capricorn, is Pholus, the second centaur. That's where the whole theme of alcohol and out-of-control situations and multi-generational situations comes from. And then then Quatwar, that's also multi-generational. It's tribal, back to the beginning of the origins of the tribe, the origins of humanity. Not so much the tribe, but humanity as perceived by the tribe. Ixion, this is named for a human. This is a Plutino. It's in a Pluto-like orbit. And this was named for the former king of the Lapiths who committed murder. He was the first human to commit homicide. And he got a little planet named after him. This is out of Greek mythology. He's, again, human, not a god. And then he was friends with Zeus. And so he was brought to Mount Olympus for rehabilitation. And while he was on Mount Olympus, he had an idea that should make the blood of anyone who's ever read mythology run cold, which is that he wanted to rape Hera. This was his plan. He's going to rape the Queen of Heaven, the Queen of the Gods, his best friend, Zeus's wife, who brought him to Mount Olympus so that he could, be healed. And then he's going to rape Hera. So why Hera doesn't just stop him, I don't know. She was very powerful. She could do all kinds of mean, nasty things and wonderful things. But what she does instead is she creates a kind of a image of herself in the clouds, kind of a cloud formation. And instead of raping her, Ixion rapes the cloud formation. So it's kind of an illusion. And out of that pairing come all the other centaurs except Chiron and Pholus. So the centaurs are a bunch of brutal motorcycle gang members. They're like the Hells Angels of astrology. But there are 2 groups. One is Chiron Pholus, who are potentially the same myth, depending on how far back you go. And then there is all the other ones, and there's a lot of them. And out of Ixion pairing with Hera's cloud ghost, we got all the other ones. So I associate Ixion with a baldly amoral orientation. There is no moral structure at all. That's Ixion. I believe that there are Ixion-like people in every family system. And so because this is in Capricorn, and because we have, my interpretation of Ixion is that it has something to do with family systems. Quatwar, that goes all the way back to the beginning of the tribe or the family or humanity itself or the country. And we have Pholus, which is about 3 generations. It's about a cask of wine. The original myth is about a cask of wine that was the collective property of the centaurs. And and Heracles wanted to drink it for himself. And he did. And a lot of problems happened. So here's where the alcohol and the multi-generational theme come from. All right? All right. So then there's Cupido, which is about gatherings of all kinds, including family gatherings. Now, let's see here. Now, the Hunger Game pattern is moving very slowly through Capricorn. And it has a counterpart 90 degrees away in Aries, and that is Salacia in Aries, which is moving at about the same pace as Pholus. Okay, so that means that Salacia is going to be in a 90-degree angle to Pholus for a long time. And this pattern is going to hold and come in and out of focus till it peaks in 2030, and therefore we're going to be living with it for a while. And not for nothing, Saturn is going to jump in pretty soon. At the moment, well, Venus is going to be here tomorrow, and then in a few days, Venus is going to be conjunct Salacia and also square the Hunger Games pattern. Now, why am I calling it the Hunger Games pattern? Well, because to me, this is about the desperation of families, and it is about the way that families seem so committed to allowing abuse situations such as Ixion might represent to persist, to not seeing the consequences of alcoholism, which is its own very serious illness. And I think that just as bad are psychiatric meds, because they tend to barricade people and kind of fix them in to a certain mentality that is controlled by the chemical substance. I don't play too fast and loose with Pholus about addictive things like shopping and things like that. As far as I'm concerned, for something to be addictive, it really needs to basically do brain damage. It needs to result in like DTs. Like if you stop taking alcohol too quickly, you can get you can die. If you're an alcoholic and you stop alcohol, you can go into the DTs, delirium tremens, and you can die. You can have kind of a seizure and die. And so I am cautious and guarded about the entire concept of addiction. It comes from Latin dictatum, which is to control or to dictate. And I don't make too many generalizations, but I will say that in my interpretation of Pholus, we're really talking about alcohol, which is its own special thing, right? You just go to the liquor store and buy it. You can go, many places 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no prescription, and you can have one of the strongest intoxicants known to mankind. Reading the entire pattern, my sense is that there is a thing happening in society now where the rulers, by which I mean people like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and these clowns, are guiding the world into desperation for ordinary folks. So Hunger Game is that basically the rich and the powerful have fun by watching the poor and the ordinary and the perfectly lovely, intelligent, whatever, or treacherous people, whoever they are, kill each other. So to me, this is about the desperation, the boredom, the debauchery, the amorality of people who are this powerful, who frankly should not even be thinking about us anymore. They should just be doing their thing. But nobody really becomes a multi-billionaire unless you want to control people. As Bruce said, poor men want to be rich men want to be king, and the king ain't satisfied till he rules everything. So once that rulership thing takes over, people want to rule everything, and they can't mind their business. They can't just take care of their household and their family. Who was Elon Musk Grimes? Fortunately, she's got her own money. He's got to be a real cheapskate. They were sleeping on a mattress with a hole in it, and it was on her side of the bed. And she said he wouldn't, he wouldn't buy her a new mat. He wouldn't buy for them to both sleep in. He wouldn't buy a new mattress for them to sleep in. This is a mentality we really have to admit exists, and do everything in our power to not be that thing. Not be that thing. All right. What's going on next here? All right. So, why is it called the Hunger Games? Why did I call it the Hunger Games? That's about the desperation that this is about. So, and it's not about the quest for victimhood. It's about John. It's about people abusing their power. It's about people being obnoxious enablers because they want to play along and so forth. I'm not. I have never gone to the quest for victimhood, though. I don't doubt that it's a thing. Some places and sometimes, and should be watched. Okay, next. Karina writes. Let's get rid of this here. Thanks very much. Karina writes. I'm moving to another place for a year for renovation of a flat I rent and wondered if Amsterdam still needs me here, or it's time to move that on as well. So Karina, this is not even a question for your personal astrology, though I would read your personal astrology. But if you came to me as an astrologer with that question, I would say, well, how did you get to Amsterdam in the first place? What's it like for you in Amsterdam? What do you do? How is the city you feel today as opposed to how it felt in another time? And I would be looking at the astrology for moving indications of possible relocation. However, that's not the kind of thing I would feel comfortable doing with sun sign work, even with the ascendant. There's too many moving parts. You need a lot of context to understand an issue as private and personal as, where do you lay your head every night? Where is your home? And I would say that just generally, do you like it where you are? And also, I have a personal rule. If there's ever a place that needs me, that needs my energy or needs me as an influence, I'm out of there. I don't want any place that needs me. I don't want a place has got to be much bigger than me. And that does not count feeding apples to the deer and feeding bread and butter sandwiches to the birds. They don't really need me. They'll be fine without me. I just enjoy sharing my abundance with a bunch of deer in the form of bruised apples with a bunch of birds. And I like them all. So you see what I'm saying? I don't want to be any place that needs me. In fact, I'd kind of rather be in places that really don't pay attention to me that much. But that's just me. I am a Pisces. I am from New York City, where you get used to being nobody, and you never think, God, New York City really needs me. Unless you're like Bob Fosse or something. All right, Karina, and thank you for that New York City skyline. 50-foot piece of art. Okay, I've had my walls are adorned with art gifts from my clients. This has been one of the real privileges of being an astrologer, is that artists among my clients and readers and subscribers have provided me with a lot of really good art, and I mean really good artists too, like Charlie Lee May and Billy Name, who worked with Warhol for many years. That kind of art. So fantastic. Got some great stuff. All right, now next. I hope not too late there. Hi, Mary Lynn. I'm wondering if you could speak about the potential impact of the subversive nature of Pluto in the context of hidden enemies in the 12th house of Pisces. Okay. I have the sense the environment you often speak of has manifested in a general cloaking of personal authenticity, particularly in the online environment. You can say that again. Let me read it to you again. She says, talking about 12th house Pluto, I'll get there. I've got the chart right there. Well, it's actually there. I have a sense that the environment you speak about, meaning I think the 12th house of secret enemies, and remember the 12th has a lot of other purposes. has manifested in a general cloaking of personal authenticity, particularly in the online environment. Yep, definitely general cloaking of personal authenticity in the online environment. I've always relied on personal interactions to discern authenticity and unmask enemies posing as colleagues, friends, and family, although always not successfully until it was too late. The task now proves to be more difficult as I have an idea that Pluto could be more duplicitous in its influence. Okay, so what she is talking about, she's writing in from the viewpoint of Pisces. And remember, all these charts are, oops, that was dramatic. All these charts are, no, that was even more dramatic. Make a chart. Here's the Pisces solar chart. There it is. There in all its glory. And that's to say the chart that I used for inner light and inner peace, which are, by the way, two totally different readings. When I did the audio, I didn't even go back and look at the written. And when I do the written every year, I have never once read the previous one. I start absolutely from scratch, almost as if I don't know astrology. But here we are, solar chart for Pisces. And what she's saying is, well, here's Pluto in the 12th place. That's the 12th place. And so in the solar chart of Pisces, Pluto is in the 12th place. Very much so. It's going to be there till 2043, 44. It starts to come out. So yeah, so there's going to be a 12th house effect of Pluto. Now, it's good to know that, first of all, the 12th house represents more than hidden enemies. And generally, it represents hidden enemies in mundane and horary readings, less so in natal readings, but you can still get a sense of what's going on in natal readings. And it's the secret enemy. It's the person you don't know is in some way against you. And one thing about that is, there maybe there's somebody against you, and how much damage can they do, and how much power do you give people, and how discerning are you? But there's always something going on in the 12th house. Everybody's got something going on in the natal 12th house. And I think that the sign involved is important. And in this case, the sign involved is Aquarius. So anybody with Pisces in the first has been living with Aquarius in the 12th a long time. And Aquarius gets into very stable, solid patterns. It also gets into, by some back formations, into groups and technology, back forming off the 11th place, which is parallel to the 11th sign, but not in the theme of Monday. And I would say that Pluto in the 12th is going to be deeply transformative, and that the thing to do is to focus on your own inner being, your own inner sense of what your interior life is about, because that's where Pluto wants you to go. In the 12th, the direction of travel is inward. Okay, so Pluto Pluto represents definitely the one thing that Pluto evolutionary journey of the soul got right is there is definitely a growth drive associated with Pluto. No question about it. There is a growth drive with Pluto, which you could call the soul, but the soul really means a conscious learning and development process in a self-aware person. It's not some little secret thing that you've got that goes flying off into the clouds. When you really think of what soul is, and my favorite definition of soul comes from The Meaning of Life by Monty Python in the corporate boardroom scene. Look it up. You can find it on the internet. It's The Meaning of Life. I think it's the I forget the name of the scene, but it'll turn up. Once I start watching it, I can't stop watching it over and over again, and I save the script somewhere. But what Monty Python is getting at is that the soul is a process. The soul has the capability to reflect in a self-aware way. The soul has the ability to seek an understanding of itself. The soul has the ability to suffer and to struggle. Okay, but that does not automatically make someone soulful. The 12th, and notice this game. We're taking Aquarius and overlaying it on the 12th. In the case of Aries, for example, we have Aries in the first, and Pisces in the 12th, right? But in the case of Pisces, we have Pisces in the first and Aquarius in the 12th. Following me? So it's essentially the same chart, just turned round and round. The 12th represents ancestral material. Yes, it represents the secret enemy, and it represents, yeah, but in natal and in personal astrology, don't take that too hard. Orrery is read differently because you are trying to very quickly map out who's who and what's what in a particular situation. All right, taking me on that one. Whereas the natal chart, well, this is a question of, and in this question too, this is really calling for a natal chart interpretation. But no doubt, okay, 12th, other properties of the 12th. So 12th, interior, 12th, ancestral, going back a long way. 12th, from Vedic, the pleasures of the bed. The 12th, generally, what has gone missing. So the 12th in your chart can represent what has gone missing, what's fallen between the cushions on the couch. Where do all those guitar picks and Bic lighters go? Okay, so that's the 12th. They're all lingering about in the 12th place. So the 12th has many meanings. But I think when I think of the 12th, I think interior, I think dreams, I think of one's internal map of the cosmos. So here's what I would say is like the kind of like the payoff of Pluto and Aquarius in the 12th for this type of reading. The 12th house can represent, and house and place mean the same thing. So the 12th house place can represent your inner concept of existence that then ends up kind of getting projected out into existence. It's a little how like your family of origin repeats over and over. Well, you keep an internal template of existence in the 12th place, and that can do its thing in other facets of life, right? So interior map of life. Aquarius is a highly ordered social concept. Pluto is going to disrupt the highly ordered fixed sign Aquarius social concept. And so this is an invitation to pay attention to your inner world and your outer world and how they're mapping against each other and how you feel inwardly. Also, one thing about Pluto in the 12th is it can feel somewhat precipitous. It can feel something like, traveling at the edge of a cliff, basically. And so that's largely an illusion, and you want to pay attention to that sense of kind of walking along at the edge of the abyss. All right, and look, Pluto's talking to a lot of planets. It's just not just there all by itself, right? Pluto is in a dialogue. It's talking to M87. It's talking to Uranus, soon to be in Gemini. It's talking to the Saturn Neptune conjunction. And soon, when Chiron goes into Taurus, it's going to start picking up the vibes from Chiron in Taurus. Though the official square between Chiron and Pluto does not happen for quite a while. 3-4 years, and then it happens. But it's starting to warm up as soon as Chiron gets into Taurus. That's going to be in late spring. Okay, next one here. Capricorn reading resonated. However, I was missing something in the Capricorn reading. I was wondering if you could elaborate on some tangibles and takeaways in his audio segment for us pragmatic Caps. With all the upcoming fourth house Aries activity and Pluto leaving her first, I feel relieved, somewhat shell-shocked, though now I'm like Teflon, and frankly curious about the future. Good, that's the point. By the way, one thing about astrology is it says whatever the future is, there is one. You don't need to predict the future. It's nice to know there is a future and you'll be there. See, now you're still here. That proves it. It would be great to hear more about the Jupiterian influence across the 7th and 8th houses and how that transit may manifest in the months to come. Okay, so How do I approach this? First of all, let's see if I can find that. Here's my inner light, inner peace collection. Here, that, and that's a Leo, and that's a Libra, and that's a Sagittarius. We got a Capricorn here. Okay, very good. Capricorn. Dramatically, I got it right there. Isn't that supposed to be dramatic? It's just like CNN with all the things coming around, and the theme music. Okay, so Capricorn. So Pluto definitely moving on to Aquarius. Now, you might want to follow Pluto. I think that this is about community trust. I think Pluto in the second house in Aquarius is about a community trust. Aquarius is community. The second is trust. Imagine having Pluto in Aquarius, and the second is like being the treasurer of an organization. It's not just about you. Your resources are not just about you. Okay, so Pluto has moved on, but here again is the Hunger Games pattern, right in the first place, and that for this Pluto has been preparation. Pluto has been an opportunity to get used to, like highly focused, powerful transits, and be able to work with them. And excuse me, I've got a little itch in my nose. So you kind of got to take it as it comes. Now, Jupiter is here too. I've got that. At the moment, Jupiter is kind of like here at 15. Right there. And then it's going to go into Leo on June 30th. And so, to me, this is just about opportunity. It's an opening. Jupiter is saying, take advantage of the situations in your life. That doesn't mean take advantage of people. It means take advantage of the situations that come to you. And there hasn't been very much of substance in Cancer for a long time, right? The inner planets come and go quickly. There haven't been any, significant outer planet transits unless you start looking at the minor planets, which I do. We've got Kronos here. We've got forget, this is one of the trans-Neptunians. Okay, but so there's not much of substance here. These are hypotheticals. This is not Hades. This is Hades. And Kronos, they're important. I interpret them, but they are not of tangible substance. They're thematic. Well, now you've got Jupiter there. So what's it like to all of a sudden have the largest planet where there hasn't been any planets for a long time? Then Jupiter moves into Leo in the second half of the year. So the theme shifts to now some form of value being available. So if this were a person's natal chart and I got all the timing correct, there would be, you could say, this person's going to inherit money. Well, that's interesting. Why to say that? Because 8th is inheritance, and Leo is gold, and Jupiter is the greater benefic. There is substance. So I wouldn't go so far as to say that you're going to, based on this, what's going on with my physical reality here? It's been a long day. It's Thursday. We published Planet Waves, which means I spent the last two days writing it, and then one day producing it. Happens very quickly. All right. How does one survive in the Hunger Games? Yeah. Know who your friends are. Be kind. Have people around who are generous, and be generous with them. And avoid enablers. Abusers are easy to spot. They're abusers. But the people who kind of say, well, why can't you just get along with your sister? It's like, you motherfucker. You know she tortures me. You know this is a hypothetical sister. You know that there's no getting along because there's one person in the relationship committed to torturing the other person. But still, in this gaslighty way, maybe your dad or your mother says, but why can't you get along with your sister? I don't understand why you can't get along. They're the dangerous people, in my opinion. The enablers are more dangerous than the abusers because you know who the genuine out front douchebags are. But what is more difficult to spot is the people facilitating, covering for them, playing little games. You digging me? You digging me? All right, that was from Sonal. I don't know if I'm helping anyone or anything here. One last one from Jessica Josephine. Right. This is somebody I know and have kind of read her chart. She's wondering about the human blowtorch metaphor that I use for Libra. So I describe Libra, among other things, as the human blowtorch. That I think is what I said to her, and I answered her today. I said, I wrote an email to her, and I said, well, all right, look, this is first of all, this is a sun sign pop astrology generalization, the human blowtorch. But isn't it cool? Isn't that funny? And I leave it to Libras to think about what that might be. But then she says, well, the blowtorch can be turned all the way down to a very dim flame that you might not even be able to see, but it's still there. And then you can turn the gas up, and then out comes this big, powerful blue flame. Yes, it can cut steel, right? It can weld or solder, or it can change the shape of metal, or it can be very retiring and retreating. And what I am saying is that there is a very wide variability in the energetic expression of Libra, and that is to say, Libras can be very retiring and kind of, the old trope is indecisive and all of that stuff. And I try to get away from that crap. I'd rather call Libras the human blowtorch and not have you know what I really mean and have to figure it out than to say, well, Libras are indecisive, and then just perpetuate this bullshit that maybe they kind of are, but that's one of those things in astrology where, like, if you're a Libra and you're indecisive and you like it, then go on being indecisive and tell me how it works out for you. If you're a Libra and you are not very decisive, get some executive function. However, I'm not saying any of those things. I just did, but generally not. But what I am saying is, well, there's this energetic variance in Libra. I sent her a video of Brent Midland performing on July 4th, 1989, who's a perfect Libra in that he could go way back and retreat and just be back there with delicate piano, and then he could come on at full strength, like with the power of 10 men, with the chi and the talent and the strength of 10 men, when turning it all the way up, right? Turning it all the way up. So what I'm saying is you've got a lot of variability, and, there's a reason why Libras are thought of as being sort of banal people, and at the same time, you end up with people like Bruce Springsteen and a lot of other really good, Tom York, a lot of other really good rock stars have a very strong Libra signature. So remember that what I'm doing is it's a branch of philosophy. Even though it's not exactly entertainment, I like to be engaging and have fun with it. And what I'm suggesting is that when you're doing this astrology, you're experiencing me pushing the use of the solar chart out to its maximum, right? If Sally Brompton is using a chart like this, it's simpler to write 50 words, and I can then basically take the whole gestalt of the chart and easily, there have been some, the Pisces reading the last 2 years, I had to cut myself off with what I think are really my best readings, which are the Awakening from 2025. They're different. The Awakening, which is included in Inner Light, Inner Peace, is a whole different kind of reading than Inner Light. They're both, I think, good writing. As an editor, I think they're good writing. As an astrology customer, I'd be very happy to have them, but they're very different readings. I'm not sure why why I said that, but they are. I don't know. What I was saying was, Sally Brompton, Jonathan Caner's nephew, whoever writes a horoscope, is using the solar house method, and they're able to sustain a daily horoscope, which is hard. Try it sometime. Try writing one 12-sign interpretation it'll take you a week to write. If you're not used to doing it, it'll take you a week. You don't know how to do it, it'll take you a month or until you learn. But then I'm taking the same method, whole sign houses, houses of the sun, and I'm able to get basically a book out of it. How is that possible? Well, it's kind of how good are you at playing your instrument? If Jerry took he's not alive anymore. Let's say Mark Knopfler took like a $100 guitar out of off the shelf at a flea market, he would still sound like Mark Knopfler. And so astrology is more about the astrologer than anybody else. And the message of the medium of astrology is the vibe of the astrologer. It is the general life philosophy and orientation of the astrologer, right? It's the philosophy of life that the astrologer has. And what using these kind of tools do is it gives a way to create a meeting space. So the Capricorn chart, the Capricorn reading, the Capricorn horoscope is just a meeting space where we hang out and where everybody else is welcome to hang out. And it really does personalize and customize to a tremendous extent if it works for you. And that's what this is about. This is about, does it work for you? And I will add on one last note. There are a lot of people who are into my work because I think I'm the astrologer teaching astrology with every single thing I do. And people are picking up on this. I have been amazed at some of the ability of certain people who have been following my work, who have actually been getting all the things I'm putting in, or many of them, that explain how to do it. One absolutely fantastic, awesome thing about these, where do they go? These readings is that, where did that go? Anyway, it's here. It's the Inner Light, Inner Peace readings, which we've been talking about. Here it is that, really dramatic. I am teaching astrology as I do this. I'm not teaching it in the sense of going over your head, you don't understand it, not teaching it as a technical exercise, but I'm teaching the references and I am teaching the cohesion of the message. In any event, many people who follow my work are ready to start actually learn how to freaking do it. Learn how to do it. Let me cast your chart. So you've got a nice set of charts. I'll send you your chart. Maybe take a class. Maybe watch some of my classes. But do it. One of the ways I learned was I started writing horoscopes right away. So I start writing and I'm not forced, but compelled to have to interpret. I'm compelled to have to interpret, right? You don't get to say, well, I don't really know what to say to Sagittarius on Thursday, so I'm going to leave that one blank. And you don't want to just throw some bullshit. You got to read the thing, and you got to say what's the best thing you can say to that Sagittarius on that particular day with that particular aspect going on, right? But if you're thinking, some of these questions are so detailed that I think people really need to get busy reading astrology and at least get a conversation going with me about how to structure your learning process, so you actually gain some ground and you use what you know. And by the way, there's a video on my website called on YouTube, and it's on the website also, but it's on the YouTube channel, right on the videos page. You know more astrology than you think. And that's a 3-hour class where I go through all the astrology that you actually do know, but may not realize that you do know. And so there comes a point of learning, and there comes a point of consolidation of the knowledge. And I think that for the astrology fans who are like, oh, can I ever do this? I would say get a foothold in one place. Study one planet. For example, study Chiron. I've got a new book about to come out on Chiron. It's being given as a gift to all astrology pass holders, by the way. So you start with, for me, my foothold was Chiron. Now, I took a very Chiron based, healing centered approach to astrology, kind of a therapy focus, but using astrology while I bring in certain techniques I've learned from a diversity of therapy methods and my therapist, Joe Trusso, without having it be therapy. What I do is astrology. But I got in, my foothold first was the newspaper horoscope and then Chiron. That's kind of weird because it's like going from like what people would think is like the most basic, kitsch, irrelevant astrology that can't possibly work, but when it does real good. And Chiron, this like advanced, esoteric, newly discovered planet, opened up the whole theme of minor planets. But that's where I got my foothold. I tell the story in the introduction to the Chironian. That's what my book is called, The Chironian, of how that worked out. So what I'm getting at here is, if you're really stretching my readings and you really want to know how this works, get your chart and like learn one house real good, and then learn another house real good. Study your transits. It's easy to know your transits. You do not need to be an expert. You need to be able to look something up in a train schedule and then ask yourself what was going on. Your interpretation of your chart will come from you or be confirmed by you. There are things in my chart that took me years to figure out, and then it was plainly obvious. Like I've got a whole cluster of asteroids in the 6th house in Sagittarius. Well, what are those? They're all goddess asteroids. Well, they're the women I work with. International in the 6th house. I've got this cluster of asteroids in Sag in the 6th house in my chart, and I generally work with women. I like working with the guys, but I usually work with women. And there they are in the 6th house. And usually they're from other countries. Our team right now is Mexico, our production team, Mexico, England, Massachusetts, California. Yeah. Where else? No, around the corner, Socrates. Okay, so that's mostly what I got to say to you. I've been going on for more than an hour, so hopefully you find this entertaining. I'm easily found. I'm doing readings this time of year. It's much easier for me in the spring, summer, and into the early autumn. And then, then I'm busy with the annual readings in the later part of the year. But now is the time if you want some consultation, you want some guidance, you want to study, you want resources. People write to me with questions. I answer the question. You write to me looking for information. I provide the information. I'm not a taxi cab. I'm not an Uber. I'm here to freely share the information that I have, but it takes a lot to sustain all of this, which is why I ask that you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And easiest way to subscribe is Substack, but if you see our subscription options, check them out. We do good stuff, and I am here to, more than anything, to be myself. I think that for whatever talent you may think I have, my ability as a writer or a presenter or astrologer or journalist, the one thing I'm really good at is being me. And that is the thing that I want to convey to you, how it feels to be good at being you. I just happen to do it through astrology and art and music and investigative reporting and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, radio shows. But like you realize, right? You realize one thing, if you're reading my stuff and seeing it and hearing it, it's always me, right? I'm not like pretending to be somebody else when I turn the video camera off and turn these microphones on and it's just audio. All right. So signing off from the Harshaw House. Thank you all for your business and your trust. That is the reason I say that. Thank you for your business and your trust is I personally think that trust is the most important thing, and that business is nice. But you spend $30 in my business and you are engaging in an act of trust because when reading, especially when reading, you let your mind go into the idea stream that I am giving. And I have had astrologers say things I wish I hadn't heard, and I've had quite a few people over the years come to me with things that were said to them by other astrologers that I had to help them figure out, well, no, that's not an ironclad interpretation. That's not for sure. That's just an interpretation. And here is another interpretation. Does that one fit? Does that one work for you? Anyway, all right, once again, signing off. Lots of love, and bye for now.